Welcome to my little corner of the internet, where we celebrate creativity and growth. Thank you for joining us on this exploration of Christmas Carol. We hope you find it enlightening. A Christmas Carol with a usual Christmas Carol disambiguation Weihnachtslieder, Op. 8 Cornelius. A Christmas carol is a carol on the theme of Christmas, traditionally sung at Christmas itself or during the surrounding Christmas and holiday season. The term Noel has sometimes been used, especially for carols of French origin. Christmas carols may be regarded as a subset of the broader category of Christmas music. Let's zoom in on history and understand its implications. The first known Christmas hymns may be traced to 4th Rome. Latin hymns such as Veni Redemptor Gentium, written by Ambrose, Archbishop of Milan, were austere statements of the theological doctrine of the Incarnation in opposition to Arianism. Cognatus ex parentis of the Father's heart begotten by the Spanish poet Prudentius d. 413 is still sung in some churches today. In the 9th and 10th centuries, the Christmas sequence or prose was introduced in northern European monasteries, developing under Bernard of Clairvaux into a sequence of rhyme stanzas. In the 12th century, the Parisian monk Adam of St. Victor began to derive music from popular songs, introducing something closer to the traditional Christmas carol. In the 13th century, in France, Germany, and particularly Italy, under the influence of Francis of Assisi, a strong tradition of popular Christmas songs in regional native languages developed. Christmas carols in English first appear in a 1426 work of John Audley, a Shropshire chaplain, who lists 25 carols of Christmas, probably sung by groups of wassailers, who went from house to house. The songs now known specifically as carols were originally communal songs sung during celebrations like Harvest Tide as well as Christmas. It was only later that carols began to be sung in church and to be specifically associated with Christmas. Many carols which have gained popularity were printed in Picantions, a collection of late medieval Latin songs which was first published in 1582. Early Latin forms of carols such as Christ was born on Christmas Day, Good Christian Men, Rejoice and Good King Wenceslas can be found in this book. O Come All Ye Faithful appears in its current form in the mid-18th century, although the words may have originated in the 13th century. The origin of the tune is disputed. Carols gained in popularity after the Reformation in the countries where Protestant churches gained prominence, as well-known reformers like Martin Luther authored carols and encouraged their use in worship. This was a consequence of the fact that the Lutheran Reformation warmly welcomed music. During the years that the Puritan ban on Christmas was in place in England, semi-clandestine religious services marking Christ's birth continued to be held, and people sang carols in secret. The publication of Christmas music books in the 19th century helped to widen the popular appeal of carols. God Rest Ye Merry, Gentlemen, the First Noel, I Saw 3 Ships and Hark. The Herald Angels Sing appear in English antiquarian William Sandys' 1833 collection Christmas Carols, Ancient and Modern. Composers such as Arthur Sullivan helped to repopularize the carol, and it is this period that gave rise to such favorites as Good King Wenceslas and It Came Upon the Midnight Clear, a New England carol written by Edmund H. Sears and Richard South. Willis. The publication in 1871 of Christmas Carols, New and Old by Henry Ramsden Brumley and Sir John Stainer was a significant contribution to a revival of carols in Victorian Britain. In 1916, Charles Lewis Hutchins published Carols Old and Carols New, a scholarly collection which suffered from a short print run and is consequently rarely available today. The Oxford Book of Carols, first published in 1928 by Oxford University Press OUP, was a notably successful collection, edited by the British composers Martin Shaw and Ralph Vaughan Williams. Along with clergyman and author Percy Demmer, it became a widely used source of carols in among choirs and church congregations in Britain and remains in print today. The singing of carols was further popularized in the 20th century when OUP published one of the most popular carol books in the English-speaking world, Carols for Choirs. First published in 1961 and edited by David Wilcox and Reginald Jock, this best-selling series has since expanded to a 5-volume set. Along with editor John Rutter, the compilers included many arrangements of carols derived from sources such as Picancians, as well as pieces by modern composers such as William Walton, Benjamin Britten, Richard Rodney Bennett, William Matthias and John Rutter. Today carols are regularly sung at Christian religious services. Some compositions have words that are clearly not of a religious theme, but are often still referred to as carols. For example, the 16th Song of Bone, God Wot, appears to be a wassailing song which is sung during drinking or while requesting ale, but is described in the British Library's Cottonian collection as a Christmas carol. As recently as 1865, Christmas-related lyrics were adopted for the traditional English folk song Greensleeves, becoming the internationally popular Christmas carol What Child Is This? Little research has been conducted on carol singing, but one of the few sociological studies of caroling in the early 21st century in Finland determined that the sources of songs are often misunderstood, and that it is simplistic to suggest caroling is mostly related to Christian beliefs, for it also reinforces preservation of diverse national customs and local family traditions. A modern form of the practice of caroling can be seen in Dial a Carol, an annual tradition held by students at the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign, wherein potential audiences call the singers to request a performance over phone call. As we embark on the next leg of our journey, let's unpack the layers of carols for dancing and examine its core elements. It is not clear whether the word carol derives from the French carol or the Latin coro, meaning a circular dance. As we transition, let's shed light on music and its relevance to our ongoing exploration. Traditionally, carols have often been based on medieval chord patterns, and it is this that gives them their uniquely characteristic musical sound. Some carols like Puss-and Hodie, Good King Wenceslas, and The Holly and the Ivy can be traced directly back to the Middle Ages, and are among the oldest musical compositions still regularly sung. Compositions continue to be written that become popular carols. For example, many of the carols written by Alfred Burt are sung regularly in both sacred and secular settings, and are among the better-known modern Christmas carols. Get ready for an exciting part as we dive into church and liturgical use. Almost all the well-known carols were not sung in church until the second half of the 19th century. Hymns ancient and modern included several carols. Isaac Watts, the father of English hymnody, composed Joy to the World, which has become a popular Christmas carol even though it is widely believed that Watts did not write it to be sung only at Christmas. Charles Wesley wrote texts for at least 3 Christmas carols, of which the best known was originally entitled Hark! How All the Welkin Rings, later edited to Hark! The Herald Angels Sing. A tune from a cantata, Festsang, by Felix Mendelssohn in 1840 was adapted by William H. Cummings to fit Wesley's words. This combination first appeared in Hymns Ancient and Modern in 1861. Silent Night comes from Austria. The carol was first performed in the Nikolauskirche in Oberndorf on 24 December 1818. Moore had composed the words much earlier, in 1816, but on Christmas Eve brought them to Gruber and asked him to compose a melody and guitar accompaniment for the church service. The first English translation was in 1871, where it was published in a Methodist hymnal. Get ready for a captivating exploration as we unravel the layers of episodes described and their profound significance. Several different Christmas episodes, apart from the birth of Jesus itself, are described in Christmas carols, such as Annunciation, for example Gabriel's message, the census of Augustus, a rare subject but touched upon in On a Day When Men Were Counted by Daniel Famirajan Niles 1960 for the Annunciation to the Shepherds, for example While Shepherds Watched Their Flocks, the Adoration of the Shepherds, for example the Czech carol Nesem Noviny translated into English as Come, All Ye Shepherds, the Star of Bethlehem, for example Star of the East, the Visit of the Magi, for example We Three Kings, the Massacre of the Innocents, for example the Coventry Carol. In addition, some carols describe Christmas-related events of a religious nature, but not directly related to the birth of Jesus. For example, O Good King Wenceslas, based on a legend about Saint Wenceslas helping a poor man on 26 December, the feast of Stephen. Ding dong merrily on high, and I heard the bells on Christmas Day, reflecting on the practice of ringing church bells at Christmas. In this section, we'll be deep diving into early examples, unraveling its complexities and uncovering valuable insights. Antiquarians in the 19th rediscovered early carols in museums. According to the Encyclopaedia Britannica, about 500 have been found. Some are wassailing songs, some are religious songs in English, some are in Latin, and some are mechanic, a mixture of English and Latin. Since most people did not understand Latin, the implication is that these songs were composed for church choristers, or perhaps for an educated audience at the royal courts. The most famous survival of these early mechanic carols is the Bow's Head. The tradition of singing carols outside of church services early in the 19th century is best illustrated by Thomas Hardy's novel Under the Greenwood Tree 1872. In England and other countries, such as Poland Kolda, Romania Koland, and Bulgaria Koldari, there is a tradition of Christmas caroling earlier known as wassailing, in which groups of singers travel from house to house, singing carols at each, for which they are often rewarded with gifts, money, mince pies, or a glass of an appropriate beverage. Money collected in this way is now normally given to charity. Singing carols in church was instituted on Christmas Eve 1880 in Truro Cathedral, Cornwall. See article on 9 lessons and carols, and now seen in churches all over the world. The songs that were chosen for singing in church omitted the wassailing carols, and the words hymn and carol were used almost interchangeably. Shortly before, in 1878, the Salvation Army, under Charles Fry, instituted the idea of playing carols at Christmas, using a brass band. Carols can be sung by individual singers, but are also often sung by larger groups, including professionally trained choirs. Most churches have special services at which carols are sung, generally combined with readings from Scripture about the birth of Christ. This is often based on the famous Festival of 9 Lessons and Carols at King's College, Cambridge. Let's now turn our attention to in classical music and uncover the fascinating insights it brings to the table. In the Heures and Heures, 2 French composers incorporated carols into their works. Louis-Claude Daquin wrote 12 noels for organ. Marc-Antoine Charpentier wrote a few instrumental versions of noels, plus 1 major choral work, Messe de Minuit pour Noel. Johann Sebastian Bach included Christmas carols in his cantatas for Christmaslied, including his Christmas oratorio. Peter Cornelius included carol melodies in the accompaniment of his song cycle Weihnachtslieder, Op. 8. Other examples include Ralph Vaughan Williams' Fantasia on Christmas Carols, 1912. Victor Hely Hutchinson, Carol Symphony, 1927. Benjamin Britten, A Ceremony of Carols for Choir and Harp, 1942. Christina Rossetti's poem In the Bleak Midwinter has been set to music by Gustav Holst, 1905, Harold Dark, 1911, and others. Polish composer Krzysztof Penderecki extensively quotes the Christmas carol Silent Night in his Symphony No. 2, nicknamed the Christmas Symphony. Get ready to uncover the mysteries surrounding star singers as we navigate its intriguing terrain. In Austria, Belgium, and Germany, Epiphany, the last feast of the Christmas season, is marked by star singers, children dressing as the 3 kings, carrying a star on a pole. Going from house to house from New Year's Day to 6 January, the children sing religious songs and collect money for charity. They are often rewarded with extra sweets or money. In the upcoming section, we'll be dissecting Australia, South Africa, and New Zealand and exploring its implications in greater detail. In Australia, South Africa, and New Zealand, where it is the middle of summer at Christmas, there is a tradition of carols by candlelight concerts held outdoors at night in cities and towns across the country during the weeks leading up to Christmas. First held in Melbourne, Carols by Candlelight is held each Christmas Eve in capital cities and many smaller cities and towns around Australia. Performers at the concerts include opera singers, musical theatre performers, and popular music singers. People in the audience hold lit candles and join in singing some of the carols in accompaniment with the celebrities. Similar events are now held all over Australia, usually arranged by churches, municipal councils, or other community groups. They are normally held on Christmas Eve or the Sunday or weekend before Christmas. A similar recent trend in South Africa and New Zealand are for smaller towns to host their own carols by candlelight concerts. William Garnett Billy James wrote music for Christmas Carol lyrics written by John Wheeler. Both men worked for the Australian Broadcasting Commission. These referred to the hot, dry December of the Australian outback, dancing boulders, a native Australian crane, and similar Australian features. Let's now venture into the realm of Christmas music composed by Australians and explore the fascinating intricacies it holds. 1852 Christmas Present Polka by John Hassan. 1862 Hymn for Christmas Day by James Johnson. 1862 All My Heart This Night Rejoice by Charles East Horsley. 1863 Australian Christmas Song by Ernestus Bagnoletti. 1864 Christmas in Australia by George Tolhurst. 1866 Victorian Christmas Waltz by Cesare Cutola. 1870 Christmas Anthem by Paolo Giazza. 1883 Song of the Angels by Charles Sandys Packer. 1890 Lovely Voices of the Sky by Alfred Plumpton. 1899 While All Things Were in Quiet Silence by Henry John King. 1900 In the Cathedral by George South de Cheney. 1900 Yuletide Gavotte by John Albert Delaney. 1908 Australian Christmas Carol by Joseph Summers. 1910 My Little Christmas Bell by Joe Slater. 1910 Star of the East by August Junker. 1929 The Night of Fear Is Over by Fritz Hart. With the groundwork laid, let's now examine Canada and its connections to our previous discussions. The Huron Carol, or 'Twas in the Moon of Wintertime, is a Canadian Christmas hymn, Canada's oldest Christmas song, written probably in 1642 by Jean de Brebeuf, a Jesuit missionary at Sainte Marie among the Hurons in Canada. Let's now turn our gaze towards Finland and explore the fascinating connections it has to offer. In accordance with the medieval tradition, the Christmas peace is declared every year on Christmas Eve in Paavo, Finland, with a local band and male choir performing Christmas carols. Let's now enter the realm of France and discover the fascinating stories it has to tell. In 1535, the 16th carol, Burgers, Assemblance News, was sung aboard Jacques Cartier's ship on Christmas Day. In 1554, a collection of French carols, La Grande Bible de Noël, was printed in Orleans. In 1703, another collection, Chants de Noël Anciens et Modernes, was printed by Christophe Ballard in Paris. Dating from the 18th century, Les Anges nos campagnes, known as Angels We Have Heard on High in English, is another famous French carol. The 19th Cantique de Noël, also known as Minuet Courtiers, adapted as O Holy Night in English, is another classic. Danse cette table and Venez Divin Messie are also popular Christmas carols. Ahat, the best-known traditional French carol, Il est le divin enfant, comes from the region of Provence. In this part of the video, we'll be diving deep into Germany, Austria and Switzerland and unraveling its profound impact. Some carols familiar in English are translations of German Christmas songs. Weihnachtslieder. Pastoral Weihnachtslieder are sometimes called Hirtenlieder, shepherd songs. Martin Luther wrote the carol Vom Himmel hoch, da komm ich her, which can be acted as a play of the Christmas story. He also wrote Gelobet seist du, Jesu Christ and Christum were sollen loben schon. The carol Vom Himmel hoch, O Engel, Comte was written by Friedrich Spee in 1622 to an older melody, a lullaby singing of Jesus and Mary, and for peace. Two well-known later examples are O Tannenbaum, O Christmas Tree, from a German folk song arranged by Ernst Arnsts, and Still Nacht, Silent Night by the Austrians Franz Xaver Gruber and Joseph Mohr. The carol most familiar in German besides those two is probably the 19th O du Flitsch. Other popular and widely sung Christmas carols are Herbie, O Edlebigen, which is a German version of Adest Fiedel's English, O Come, All Ye Faithful, Old Jerry Wieder Every Year Again, Es ist ein Ross entsprungen lit, A Rose Has Sprung Up, Dies resultet Schnee silently, The Snow is Falling, Tochter Zion, Fröhlich Daughter Zion, Rejoice, and Es ist für uns ein Zeit angekommen, unto us a time has come. Last ans froh und munter sein, let us be happy and cheerful, kling, glatchen, ring, little bell, ihr Kinderlein, kommet o, come, little children and Schneeflöckchen, Weihrochten lit. Tiny Snowflake, White, Tiny Skirt are popular German songs introduced in kindergarten and primary school. Ingeborg Weber-Kellermann wrote a scientific book on German Christmas carols, which is also a songbook. As we embark on the next leg of our journey, let's unpack the layers of custom and examine its core elements. Greek tradition calls for children to go out with triangles from house to house on Christmas Eve, New Year's Eve, and Epiphany Eve, and sing the corresponding folk carols, called the Kalender or Christogenen, the word deriving from the Roman kalends. There are separate carols for each of the three great feasts, referring respectively to the Nativity, to Street Basil and the New Year, and to the baptism of Jesus in the River Jordan, along with wishes for the household. In addition to the carols for the winter festive season, there are also the springtime or Lenten carols, commonly called the carols of Lazarus, sung on the Saturday before Palm Sunday as a harbinger of the resurrection of Christ, to be celebrated a week later. In older times, caroling children asked for and were given edible gifts such as dried fruit, eggs, nuts, or sweets. During the 20th century, this was gradually replaced with money gifts ranging from small change in the case of strangers to considerable amounts in the case of close relatives. Caroling is also done by marching bands, choirs, school students seeking to raise funds for trips or charity, members of folk societies, or merely by groups of well-wishers. Many internationally known carols, e.g. Silent Night and O Tannenbaum, are also sung in Greek translation. Let's now turn our attention to variants and examine its role within a larger context. Many carols are regional, being popular in specific regions but unknown in others, whereas some are popular throughout the two countries. Examples of the latter are the Peloponnesian Christmas carol Christogena, Protogena Christmas, Vespers, the Constantinopolitan Christmas carol Kalend Hesperon, Acantis Good Evening, Lords, and the New Year's carol Archaniki Archicrony, first of the month, first of the year. The oldest known carol, commonly referred to as the Byzantine carol, Byzantine Greek, Anarchos Thais Katobgon, God, who has no beginning, descended, is linguistically dated to the beginning of the High Middle Ages, ca. 1000 AD. It is traditionally associated with the city of Kotura in the Pontus, modern-day Ordu, Turkey. Get ready for a captivating exploration as we unravel the layers of form and their profound significance. Most carols follow a more or less standard format. They begin by exalting the relevant religious feast, then proceeds to offer praises for the Lord and Lady of the house, their children, the household and its personnel, and usually conclude with a polite request for a treat and a promise to come back next year for more well-wishing. Almost all the various carols are in the common decapentasyllables 15-syllable iamb with a kazra after the 8th syllable verse, which means that their wording and tunes are easily interchangeable. This has given rise to a great number of local variants, parts of which often overlap or resemble one another in verse, tune, or both. Nevertheless, their musical variety remains very wide overall. For example, carols from Epirus are strictly pentatonic, in the kind of drone polyphony practiced in the Balkans, and accompanied by sea clarinets and fiddles. Just across the straits, on Corfu Island, the style is tempered harmonic polyphony, accompanied by mandolins and guitars. Generally speaking, the musical style of each carol closely follows the secular music tradition of each region. Brace yourself for a captivating discussion on Italy as we explore its nuances and implications. The most popular Italian Christmas carol is Tu scendi del Stelle, written in 1732 by Saint Alphonsus Liguori. Brace yourself for an enlightening exploration of Philippines as we dive into its profound implications. Christmas carols in predominantly Catholic Philippines exhibit the influence of indigenous, Hispanic and American musical traditions, reflecting the country's complex history. Carols begin wassailing in November, with mostly children and young adults participating in the custom. Now, let's dig deeper into Poland and unveil the hidden treasures it holds within. Christmas carols are very popular in Poland, where they have a long history, the oldest dating to the 15th century or earlier. There is a tradition of singing Christmas carols until 2 February, which is celebrated by Western Christians as the feast of the presentation of Jesus at the temple. Among the most prominent Polish carols are God is Born, Grzywodzi and Midst Quiet Night Would Not Sishi. With our foundation established, it's time to explore Romania and its relevance to our overarching theme. During the Socialist Republic of Romania in the 20th century, Christmas carols were banned by the government of Ceausescu. Days following the Romanian Revolution in 1989, Christmas carols were sung for the first time in 42 years. In this section, we'll be exploring Spain and Portugal. The villancico or villancite in Portuguese was a common poetic and musical form of the Iberian Peninsula and Latin America, popular from the late 15th to 18th centuries. With the decline in popularity of the villancicos in the 20th century, the term became reduced to mean merely Christmas carol. Important composers of villancicos were Juan del Encina, Pedro de Escobar, Francisco Guerrero, Gaspar Fernandez and Juan Gutierrez de Padilla. Popular Spanish villancicos include Los Pastores of Belén and Chu, El Lobo Rabioso and Los Peces en el Ro. With our foundation established, it's time to explore Andorra and Catalan-speaking territories and its relevance to our overarching theme. The Nadala or Canda Nadal in plural nadals are a popular group of songs, usually requiring a chorus, that are sung from Advent until Epiphany. Their written versions starts in the 15th century. In the past were usually being sung by shepherds and their families in market squares and in front of churches. The Nadala origins are uncertain but usually cited to be related with the Montseny and Pedraforca mountains in Catalonia by the counties of Osona and Girona. As quite a few have references to mythological events and powers, some authors claim that they contain part of the religion that was present in the territory before Christianity arrived, as it was kept alive in these mountainous regions. The Nadala is usually paired with the Carmela, being one for the winter solstice events while the other to the spring equinox. Now, we shift our focus to Ukraine, a topic that deserves our attention. Ukrainian Christmas carols are named Kolyotka. They were originally sung to celebrate the birth of the sun winter solstice. After the incorporation into Christianity, their theme has been shifted to Christmas, celebrating the birth of Jesus Christ. The Ukrainian carol most known in the Western world is the Carol of the Bells, with English lyrics by the American composer of Ukrainian descent Peter J. Wilhowsky, composed by the Ukrainian composer Mykola Leontovich as Shrik, and premiered in December 1916 by a choral group made up of students at Kyiv University. Although it is a Christmas carol in Wilhowsky's English lyrics, in original Ukrainian lyrics it is a generous Eve carol, having nothing with Christianity. In this part of the video, we'll be delving deeper into United States and analyzing its key components. Christmas music performed in the United States ranges from popular songs such as Jingle Bells to Christmas carols such as Away in a Manger, O Little Town of Bethlehem, and numerous others of varying genres. Church and college choirs celebrate with special programs and online recordings. Have any questions or topics you'd like me to cover in future videos? Let me know in the comments.